Wish me luck here on the recording. All right, I think we are recording. We are officially recording now.
Yes, you've got the red dot, top left corner.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining. Happy New Year. My name's Ray Hernandez, and I'm joined by my colleague, best friend, good pal, big brother, little brother, I'm not quite sure, Mr. John Ullman, also known as Johnny Ice. Johnny.
That is correct. I'm here.
Friend.
Big brother by 2 weeks. So we're some sort of twins there. And we're happy to be here. It's exciting.
So, John and I, we've known each other for about, almost 20 years, 25 years. What was it, 10th grade?
It's more than 20. Yeah, 20. Yeah. It's more than 20 years.
So we went to 10th grade. I first met John. We have another friend named Ant. And that's, he was our kind of liaison. We still hang out with Ant, believe it or not.
That's right.
So, John and Ant are like my big brothers. We've known each other for so long, and John and I hit it off because for a whole host of reasons, whether it's wrestling.
Oh, yes. Well, I think there's a wrestling story to be told.
And we'll weave it into this podcast somehow, some way. But John and I are also probably the only Met fans going to high school back in the day. And the Mets in many ways have kept us friends. Most of our memories have come from the Mets. And frankly, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to start this podcast. We were talking multiple times, obviously during the season, off season, and there's undoubtedly a story from a game of whatever, name your pick. And so that's why we decided, hey, let's try this podcast thing and let's see what kind of feedback we get. And let's see what stories we can share.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really about, as Mets fans know, shoulders to cry on. We've been each other's shoulder to cry on, both virtually and in person, to many of the heartbreaking games. And so I think that's something Mets fans know well, is heartbreak, heartache, and that just a blind enthusiasm for the next year, I think, is what we always, it's that cycle.
It's always next year.
Yeah.
It's always next year. Maybe this will be the year. But, one of the things, that is also really interesting when you think about it is, so John and I went to, different schools, kind of went our separate ways, if you will, when we went to college. I wound up staying in Connecticut. John still lives in New York.
That's right.
Tell people where in New York you're from, or
I'm from Yonkers, New York.
The
big YO.
All right.
That's right. Yeah.
And so we were, after we graduated school, we were kind of like, all right, well, I guess we'll never see each other again. I mean, the Facebook was just getting started. Texting was not really a thing. So yeah, it's like, How do we stay in touch with each other?
Yeah, I think Facebook pretty much started in our senior year of college, at least a junior or senior year of college. So, and it was really, Ray was out of New York, definitely out of Yonkers. He was in Connecticut. Yeah, he was chasing different dreams, and it was folks out there who were under the age of 30. It was harder without social media. There were phone calls. You had to actually talk. We'll have an episode maybe about voicemails at some point, which was a very exciting thing that we did as college students when you didn't text.
Maybe a little AIM. Maybe
that's right. That's right.
That'll be another acronym. But anyway, listen, we're going way down a rabbit hole here. But that is the connection, and that is why today we're going to talk about the infamous day, April 23rd, 2005, Mets versus Nationals. And, it was a memorable game for a whole host of reasons, which we'll talk about. But it was the first game where we started our real tradition, if you will. So ever since 2005, John and I have gone to at least one Met game in April, mainly because it is ice cold. And,
that's right.
The lines are shorter. The seats are cheaper, but you have to be a real true Met fan to go to a game, and it's ice cold, right?
Yeah, we usually find the sweet spot, which is since opening days is typically during the week, we get to like the third home game of the season where the fans are deflated by then. The seat prices have come down.
And I live in Connecticut, so it's not like I could just get on a freaking train and get to Citi Field or Shea Stadium back then,
That's right. And there's typically a story around getting to my house to pick me up and getting to Shea Stadium exit 9A over there, or 9E on the Parkway. So that's what it became. It said, a few home games into the season. It's a weekend, so we don't have to worry about that, and reasonable prices, and you definitely know you're going to get a crappy starting pitcher, and that always makes for a very interesting day at the ballpark.
That's right. When you're always that's so true. When you get that Saturday Sunday game, you always have starter number 4 or number 5. It's never like your ace.
Yeah. We I'm sure if we tally it up over the years, we probably had a lot of John Maine in our life.
We had quite a few Steve Traxel games.
Yeah,
I think
which means they went for 7 or 8 hours. Yeah.
So today, like I said, we're going to talk about this game from April 23rd. That's some background of why it's important to John and I in terms of this little tradition that we've started. But I think before we actually get into the game and before we get into the season, I think it's important for our listeners to understand why this game has some memorable feelings too. So John, walk me through again. You had an incident as a young child at a baseball stadium, right?
Yes. So it really is the foundation of me becoming a Met fan, because I was following in my father's footsteps as a Yankee fan a child. How horrible! Yeah, horrible colors. Very muted. Tough crowd. They were losers then, so who knows why I was a fan. But I had tickets from my father's job for front row at Yankee Stadium, first base side, to see the A's, who I preferred then because they had McGuire and Jose Canseco and Ricky Henderson. Brothers. Yeah, it was before juice was a bad thing. We were just all about it. So it was the Basham brothers. We loved it. And then watching batting practice, we were over there hanging out kind of right over the dugout. And the security guard there kept telling us to stop leaning over, whatever. So, as nice law-abiding third graders, which I was about to be, I was the summer before third grade, just paid attention. I said, you know what, I'm going to just watch Jose Canseco out in the outfield, shagging balls or whatever on the right. So watch that. And then we've got, Ricky Henderson up at the plate, and pop, boom. Line drive right to my eye.
Wow.
Pretty much my left eye between, right at my nose.
And this is obviously before the Nets.
Yeah. And you know what? In going to recent games, recent within, I guess, the past 10 years, they now have during batting practices these wide fences that go almost hug around the batter's box. So it's literally impossible to get hit with that kind of line drive now because of how far around those. And now, of course, with the netting, it's now definitely impossible. So felt nothing. I mean, you want to talk about the blow and then just absolute shock and everything went numb. Was essentially, no exaggeration, kind of crowd surfed out of there by security or whatever.
You did the original crowd surfing.
I did. Awesome. I crowd surfed out of there so much so that my mom and the sister who I was with, who were sitting next to me, they didn't even know what happened. They were the security, remember, took me out before they could know what happened. So they were chasing down security to figure out where I was. Wow. So there I was in the first aid station with the other losers who got hit by foul balls, right? And they give me this Don Mattingly caricature, the T-shirt, whatever, animated.
Thank you for almost losing an eye. Here's a
they give that to me.
Don't sue us.
Put it on, so just bleed all over it. So it doesn't. I'm like, and I just remember being in first aid for a little while, and then going back to seats, but I didn't want to go anywhere near the front, so we sat in the back of field box, and then eventually went to the hospital. Yeah. I don't know why we went back to the seats and then went to the hospital. Maybe it's because it happened in batting practice, and literally we saw none of the game. But yeah, then went to the hospital, and that was like the worst ER experience because they get an X-ray of your nose. You have to lay face down on your nose. At least that's how it was at that time. And you've got these miserable X-ray techs that are at the hospital at 11 o'clock at night. So healed up.
Yeah.
The funny story about that, how it continues and relates to our friendship and with Ant is, I met him that year and I rolled into third grade with sunglasses on. So, that was my first year in that school. And
with the sunglasses. You were the kid.
Rolled in because I had that black eye. These days, it would have been like, a kind of like a badge of courage or something. It would have been cool. Or they would have thought.
I was thinking more like
CPS would have been called.
But anyway, so
that's all related. Yeah,
because for everyone listening, for all the games I've ever gone to with John, whenever we would go to batting practice at Shea Stadium, you used to go down there to the bottom. Didn't matter if you have top row tickets, you'd go down early, try to get pictures, field, autographs. John would never, I shouldn't say never. It was a heightened caution as someone in their 20s and even in their 30s, a very heightened caution. Obviously, we rib him because we can make light of it. Obviously, it's not something to make light of, but the concern that Johnny Ice had all those years. And that's what makes April 23rd, 2005 even more memorable. So what do you say? Do we go through the game here? Yeah,
let's go through it before we get to, when the lights almost shut off.
All right. So, I think what's important for people to understand that 2005 season in many ways is like the 2020 season right now, or the 2020 off season. Going into it, Omar Minaya gets named general manager late 2004. They signed Carlos Beltran. They signed Pedro Martinez. And you start to get this sense that, wow, this team is, we're moving in the right direction. Willie Randolph's first year as manager for the team. So again, a lot of good energy. Of course, they start the season 0-5.
So was that the first game of the year against the Reds? Was that when the closer blew? Was Looper the closer?
Braden Looper, yeah.
And he blew it on opening day, right?
Yes, and Pedro was wishing he was back in Boston.
That's right. Good old Petey.
We get to April 23rd. We get to that game. The Mets at that point had won 9 of the last 12. What I remember about that game, actually, but before we get into the meat of it, is it was rainy. It rained like hell. It was actually a rain delay. And I remember getting down there, actually in your sister's Saturn, the infamous Saturn. I drove all the way from West
Dent free, folks. Anything can run into that
free.
Saturn.
That Saturn.
Dent free.
Dent free. Yes.
Dent free.
Rent free. I was like,
no.
I paid $850.
That's
Your
right.
Your sister was awesome.
Checks.
She let me pay $50 a month until I got my first real job. But anyway, so we get down there. It's a rain delay, so you don't even know if the game's going to actually happen. Looking at Baseball Reference here, paid attendance for this game was 43,000. Let's see here. Hold on.
44?
44. Yes, 44,058. I could promise you in reality, it was 58 people in that stadium. There were not 44,058 that day.
Well, yeah, for reference, 55 to 56,000 was what I saw as the Shea Stadium capacity. So 44,000 would have looked, pretty filled in that stadium.
Yes. Well, it was 58 people. Let me tell you.
Yes.
And as we're waiting for the game to actually start, is it going to start? Is it not? And it always, I guess, surprises me, but it doesn't. Like I had 3 hot dogs before the game even started, and you don't even know if the game is going to happen. So you're sitting there. You've already paid for parking. You're paying for concessions. Damn it!
You paid the $9 for parking in 2005.
Yes.
And so we've come a long way.
We have come a long way. Game starts. The tarp comes off. We went down to our field level there, the grassy knoll, as John likes to call it. If you remember at Shea Stadium, right toward the end of the outfield, they had these hills. Basically, they were just filled with grass.
They were extended foul territory of grass triangles.
Yes,
for some reason,
and they looked great. So thank you, Pete Flynn, for taking care of the Shea Stadium landscaping as always. I got Roberto Hernandez's autograph. Somehow, some way, we made it down there. If you remember, Roberto Hernandez, that was his first year as a New York Met, free agent signing, one of the big signings from that year. Had a good year that year. I got to look at the stats, but they didn't re-sign him. But of course, he came back in 2006.
We'll have a whole Dwaner Sanchez episode, I think, that we can get into.
Oh, Dwaner. He was part of the Dwaner deal.
Trading to get Roberto Hernandez back because of that.
But anyway, I got Roberto Hernandez's autograph, which was pretty cool. Get to our seats. I think we had field level seats. We were actually sitting more on the higher end of the field level on the third base side. But of course, we slowly worked our way down. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Which is something that I was always against as well, by the way. I framed it as because I didn't want to do something that was, dishonest, but it was really to keep distance away, to give myself more time to react to a foul ball.
And John, that was almost like, I don't know, it was like a good 15 years, but you had me fooled for the longest before you finally fessed up. Starting pitcher that day for the New York Mets. Can you remember?
Jae Seo.
Jae Seo. The unsung hero. I
did a little poking around about this because, Jae Seo was 0-0 with an 8.22 ERA in 15 innings at AAA that year. But because so here's a line with about 3 of my least favorite pitchers in Mets history all in one. So Kaz Ishii went on the disabled list the night before, and we already had Chris Benson, and Steve Traxel on the disabled list. So all-time Mets disappointing pitchers. I know Traxel came through at some point, but I just still couldn't stand him. He was too slow. Ishii, Benson, and Traxel. So we were down those guys. So we got the guy with an 8.22 ERA from AAA.
Jae Seo. Let me tell you, Jae Seo he was a very interesting pitcher. I think the previous year, he always pitched well, especially against the Braves. I think if I remember right, they played some head games with Jay because he used to wear a bracelet on his pitching arm or on his glove hand. And I remember one game, Bobby Cox made him take it off, and it was a whole big controversy. But yeah, Jae Seo, he was a solid pitcher. If memory serves correct. I mean, maybe the numbers aren't there, but I always thought he was a solid pitcher.
I always thought Jae Seo could give you like 5 solid innings, and then I guess it's like one of those third time through the order or something like that. It just was off the cliff. But I liked him. I like Jae Seo definitely above Ishii, Benson, and Traxel. That's for sure.
So Jae Seo in that game, just so he gets the W, goes 6 innings, gives up 1 run, strikes out 4. So he was ready for, who knows, that maybe that was the, he was, maybe the call to AAA was a wake up call.
Do we want to talk about the 1 run that he gave up and who hit the RBI for the 1 run?
Please do. Because I totally forgot about this till you brought it up.
I had no idea until I was scrolling through the lineups and I saw a C Baegra, and I said, maybe Carlos had a son that was playing in the league. Maybe it was a cousin, but no, you click in, and it is again. We'll do an episode on all-time Mets disappointment. Let's say trades and free agent signings. Carlos Baegra was playing third base for the Nationals, and he hit an RBI single to break Jae Seo's shutout.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Once again, another former Met, typical Mets. Former Met comes back to haunt us. I'm
surprised they didn't have Bobby Bonilla in right field at this point.
No, but they had Ryan Church in there.
Ryan Church is there. Brian Schneider, another soon-to-be Met. So,
crazy. I'm looking actually. Carlos Baegra, that one hit upped his batting average to 133 that year. The 10 games, 15 games into the season he was never an April hitter, Yeah,
it must have been April for a long time when he was in New York. That's all I can say about that.
That is true.
A lot of long Aprils.
That is true. But looking at the Mets lineup that day, so that's the other thing that I don't know if anyone else has had this experience if you're listening out this, but the challenge with going to a Saturday or Sunday game is you're probably going to get the B, maybe the C lineup. More often than not, it's a B. You got the backup catcher typically. You typically have someone that needs a day off. Looking at this, Chris Woodward was our shortstop. Miguel Cairo playing second base.
You know, it's funny. That would have been our inside joke going to the stadium always for the Saturday or Sunday's game. You know, it would be Ray would be like, all right, at second base, you know, we'd know it was coming. The second baseman, Miguel Cairo. And then it was usually, I guess a lot of times there was like a Joe McEwing or it was
Damian
whatever.
Easley.
Yeah, Damian Easley.
More times in person.
It was basically whomever that classic utility guy was that we had. They'd be playing third base instead of David Wright or playing shortstop instead of Jose Reyes. So we were prepared. And of course it was always either Ramon Castro or, you know, whoever our backup catcher was at the time. It could never be, you know, a starter. So we were braced for that and ready.
Absolutely. So, you know, looking through the game, you know, and again, I don't necessarily, you know, I'm kind of going through, the box score. You know, there's certain hits that stand out, so we'll definitely get to those. But apparently, it was a pitcher's duel between Jae Seo and Toma Oka, who I barely remember. And actually, it's also important to remember this is Washington's first year in Washington. So there's a little caveat, a little special treat, having moved from Montreal. But
which it opens up to a bunch of other stories for us. I don't know.
We may never be able to tell those on the podcast, but yes, the trip to Montreal. Oh God, I'm still walking. We've got it's scoreless tie to the bottom of the fifth. And it's you know, Mets get on the board with your boy Victor Diaz.
That's right.
Actually, it was David Wright who scored the first run with what is it here? A double? Yes. Let's see here. Yeah, double to left field. Scores Chris Floyd. I feel like Ralph Kiner after, you know.
Only when he was making his cameos in the 2000s.
Cliff Floyd scores. You got two men on, and Victor Diaz with a double. So back-to-back doubles gets the Mets up 2-0. Do you want to guess who scores both Wright and Diaz with an RBI, 2 RBI single?
I hope it's Jae Seo.
It is, John. It is.
I hope it's Jae Seo.
Man, this was Jae Seo Appreciation Day. I didn't even realize that. I mean, I remember him pitching well. I don't remember him getting the base hit.
My favorite thing about that is when the bat boy runs out with the jacket, no matter how cold or how warm it is out. Jae Seo with the jacket, the classic Mets jacket on second base or whatever.
So the Mets actually batted around that inning, score 6 runs. Oh, actually, you know what? Guys, I screwed this up altogether. They did score six runs that inning, but it was the fourth inning is when they get off the scoreless tie is over in the fourth inning. Victor Diaz with a double scores 2. Chris Woodward with a single scores 2. So now it's 4-0. And in back-to-back innings here, the Mets batted around. Wow. That's a cool fact. I didn't.
Okay, back-to-back innings batting around. All right.
10-0. 10-0. Wow. Top of the 6th. I think that by this point, like, my hands were frozen, if I remember right, because it was cold. It was rainy. It was cold. 58 degrees. But because I made the 2.5-hour drive, I was staying. I think if I lived closer, we would have been gone.
I think it's important to note also temperature. You know, you always have the temperature and the feels like. Inside of Shea Stadium, the feels like is always about 20 degrees less. So anything under 60, you are not excited about inside of this like concrete, you know, circle that you're in, this amphitheater of Shea Stadium. It's always way colder, and you're out in the open, and there's no hiding from it because you have those rotundas that are all open. You know, this is before your Citi Field inside luxury areas and you know, food courts. There is no place to hide when you are at Shea Stadium.
That is true. I miss Shea, by the way. As much as it was, you know, a dump, it was my dump. Damn it.
I agree. It was our dump.
You know, and that's the problem. Not the problem, but it was very interesting because then it's up 10-0, and then we start getting all the secondaries. Ramon Castro replaces Mike Piazza. Eric Valent replaces Carlos Beltran. Man, that's so weird to say. Like, Mike Piazza and Carlos Beltran in the same lineup. Like, I totally forgot that they were, you know, on the same team. You think about 2006 and Beltran. I don't associate 05 with Beltran.
Yeah, that's kind of that forgotten year, just kind of like how it's Willie's first year and everything like that. You don't remember Beltran in 2005. The interesting thing though is, what maybe all Met fans, what I thought about when I saw Eric Valent was this guy hit for the cycle. This guy hit for the cycle, and then I go and I have to poke around and see what's the list of Mets that hit for the cycle.
Alex Ochoa was on that list.
Yeah, it's definitely a Jim Hickman hit it in 1963, but then from there you kind of have you go back and forth between Tommy Agee, Mike Phillips in 1976, who I do not know. Keith did it in 85. Kevin McReynolds did it in 89, and then you go back down to Alex Ochoa. John Olerud, one of my all-time favorite Mets. That team. Underrated. Oh, that team, the 99 team, I think, was probably the one. And then you've got Eric Valent, Jose Reyes, and Scott Hairston in 2012, which I do not remember.
I don't remember much about the 2012 season, all right? Except for the Johan no-hitter. That's about all I can give you.
So that's
and
your...
R.A. Dickey. All right,
there you go. So that's our aside on Eric Valent. Every once in a while, we'll do that when we come across this name in the lineup and we say, okay, what are they known for in Mets lore? Because no one else will know anything about.
We should do an
guys.
Eric Valent episode, maybe.
I was a big fan of Eric Valent. What do I know?
Well, going back to this game though, what before we get to the big story, but one of the other things that I always remember is I think nope, didn't work out the way I thought it would. Folks, hold on, we're gonna rewind that one. Well, look, we're going to talk about that, the big moment, but just bringing it back a little bit, the one thing that I enjoy about that game, remember about that game, it was the first time that I heard Carlos Beltran come up to bat, and
oh wait, can I do my intro? The center fielder, number 15, Carlos Beltran.
All right, John.
All right. I don't have to do it ever again.
Although, if you like that, for the folks listening to this, we can customize. John will be more than happy to do some voiceover work for you. I
will announce you like the Mets stadium announcer up until 2017 or whatever.
But Beltran's walk-up song, that was always the best. Always. Still is. Top 10.
Oh yes.
So all right, now you go through the game. I think it was about the bottom of the seventh. I remember for the seventh inning stretch, Mr. Met came down.
Yes, Mr. Met was involved with the story. Yeah.
It's probably on an old computer hard drive somewhere, but there was a picture where he's actually pointing at us while sitting in the empty orange seats. Field level. And I said, John, after the seventh inning stretch, it was like, John, let's go down a little bit. Come on. Let's get a little bit closer. You have to get over your fear. 2005, you were, I don't know, about 24, 25 years old, 22.
That's right. Let's say I was 22. Yeah.
All right. So I was like, John, you're 22 years. You have to get over your fear. We are going down. It's a 10-0 game. The 58 people are now 48 people. And so for the folks listening, yes, I made Jonathan Ullman, Johnny Ice go down an extra section. Even though we were already in the orange, there was really no reason to go down any further. I made him go down. That's right. Little bit more.
And, peer pressure. I was just trying to get in with the cool crowd. So what do? I just say, okay, it's been more than 10 years. What's the worst that could happen? I still jump at every crack of a bat, but it's okay. Let's get closer.
And so we get to these box seats. It's the bottom of the eighth inning. Mets are up 10-4. Thank you, Baseball Reference, for helping jog us through the play-by-play here. And if you remember sitting at the old Shea Stadium, it wasn't like, if you look at Citi Field, they're just rows of seats. Back at Shea Stadium, there was this bar that was like right in the middle. So you either sat in the aisle or you sat against the bar in those field seats. They were called.
I think we may have to come out with the unofficial Shea Stadium dictionary where we have the grassy knoll. And then that was like what I would call the walkway. I'm like, you either want to sit at the walkway, so I'm a little bit above the people walking by, or in front of it. So yeah, and all modern stadiums are just like 40 rows straight down.
Yep.
These were broken up every like 20 or so.
Yeah. So, and instead of me taking the aisle because that, would have been the adult thing to do. Hey, let me protect you in case anything happens. I took the inside seat against the bar. I was thinking about you, man. I wanted you to have leg room.
That's right.
The old Shea Stadium seats, not a lot of leg room.
Comfort Plus was not a thing.
All right. So yeah, again, bottom of the eighth, Victor Diaz comes up. We got runner on first. Actually, two runners on base. Kaz Matsui and David Wright are on base. Victor Diaz, who's 4 for 4 at this point. And I don't know. You want to walk people through what happens?
Well, let me start by saying I was a big Victor Diaz fan. This actually
Mini man
was Command I, Control I, italicized was. Yes, I thought he would be Mini Manny. I was super excited when the Mets traded another one of my least favorite Mets, Jeremy Burnitz, to get this prospect who somehow was an infielder in minor leagues. This guy who looked like Manny Ramirez, who was an infielder in minor leagues. So the Mets got him, the previous year. And this ended up being the only full season he played in baseball, and he only played like 80-something games. So, but we've always had trouble finding righty power bats, right? We just never have a big, since number 31. So comes up, everybody's excited, right? Because we've got runners on base. So I'm standing. He gets around on a ball. He's a righty, right? So we're on the left-hand side. We're on the third base side. He gets around on a foul ball, and there's people around you, right? And you're always expecting everybody else wants the ball more than me. That's for sure. Because if I could duck under a seat, I will. If I could take somebody's child and put them in front of my face, I will. But this ball, it was like a heat-seeking missile. It was just coming right for my face. I couldn't duck. I'm able at the last minute to move to my left. And this thing, Ray, you could say it obliterates the chair behind us. All you hear is a thud. And then it rolls down, and I pick it up off the ground. I'm probably whiter than I normally am, and Ray is almost crying laughing, and before he could even check on me, he has to get on the phone, right? Is that correct?
That is correct.
I think you picked up the phone before you could even check on.
I called Aunt right away, and I couldn't even get words out. I was literally in tears.
That is accurate.
When I saw that ball come, instead of getting in front of you, knowing everything that has ever happened, I'm not going to lie, I turned to the left. I think I hit my head against the bar, actually. And yeah, all I heard was the sound of the, it was something.
Yeah, and that gives you an idea of how it was just going right for me, because to hit the seat behind you in a line drive, like we don't have to break out the protractors to figure out the launch angle on that. But for some reason, nobody in front of me could get to it. And then boom, and it rolls in, and I get up and I have the ball in my hand and I yell, straighten it out. Straighten it out.
By chance, do you still have that ball?
I have to look. I don't know how I can't have that ball, but
God.
I know.
The fans want to see this. The listeners.
We need to auction off that ball.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why that is, again, plenty of stories, plenty of memories part of that game. But that was kind of the cherry on the cake. And in case you're wondering, obviously the Mets win this game 10-5. Who closes it out, John? Do you want to guess?
For the Mets? Is it HB?
It is.
Oh,
your man, Heath Bell.
Heath Bell. I had a lot of hope for Heath Bell. Then he turned into a bit of a grumpy pants for the Mets. But in 2005, he was 1-3 with a 5.59 ERA in 42 games. Then what happens? What happens? He learns how to rollerblade in San Diego. 2009 to 2011. I looked at this because this as a Met fan, we kind of always hang on to these grudges, whether it's players that came and gone or players that performed well before and not after. From 2009 to 2011, Heath Bell had 42, 47, and 43 saves for the Padres.
It's all right. We had K-Rod during that stretch.
We could do about a 12-hour episode of Mets closers from 2001 to 2020, I think, and still have more content. My goodness.
Well, the other thing I forgot, and then we'll wrap this up with one final story, post game, if you will. But Jae Seo pitched that game, so it went Jae Seo to Jae Seo. Talk about the 1-2 punch there. Of course,
another legend.
Mr. Koo.
Another legend.
Runs, but you know what? That's okay. That is okay. Mr. Koo could give up as many runs as he wants because he has that one
hit on a Fox 5 broadcast against. See, this is how we are. I don't know if it's petty or desperate or what as Mets fans, but that Jae Seo hit against Randy Johnson, was that 05? Wait,
yep.
Was that?
That's all. Yeah. Yes.
That's all we needed. And again, he's there on second base and somebody runs out with a jacket because Jae Seo. But I believe it was Tim McCarver. And it was just everybody didn't know what happened. So Jae Seo, you go out there, you give up 3 runs. Because
perfectly fine.
It's kind of like if Andy Chavez would go out there and drop every fly ball for the rest of his career as a Met. Doesn't matter. You solidified your place in Mets lore, and that's all that matters.
Definitely. And that puts the bow on that game. So the Mets win 10-5. That was their 10th win in their last 13 games there. So, a little bit of a, stretch where you start to think that maybe this team, once they get it together, have a chance. We leave that day. And again, Citi Field, Shea Stadium, from where I live, it's about a 2-hour, 15-minute drive, 2:20. So after that game, you're 21, 22 years old, I'm in no rush to go home. All right. So we stick around afterwards for no other reason than to see members of the Washington Nationals leave the old clubhouse at Shea Stadium there into the parking lot.
Those
had an encounter. After nearly dying in the 8th inning, you somehow managed to be part of an encounter. No,
I will let you go through the encounters because I am just running through memories and thinking about how people can't do that anymore. We used to do it at the Garden and we used to do it at Shea Stadium, and now it's like darn near impossible to meet anybody.
After that game, we were out there. We were probably one of maybe 10. I mean, this is like a good hour after the game. I don't even know why we were out there that long after. And it was cold. And I guess we're still trying to get our money's worth. I don't know. Players from the Nationals are leaving the clubhouse. There's a group of fans talking in Spanish, essentially harassing every National player walking out. Livan Hernandez walked out with his Louis Vuitton shower caddy or whatever you want to call it. He
definitely had a man bag going on or some sort of satchel.
And like following the players to the bus, right? It was and I think if they were Met players, maybe you and I would have been a little more engaged, but we were just kind of checking it all out. And then this fan is chasing this player. It's Esteban Loaiza. Who's behind bars today, I think.
He Loaiza incarcerated. Yes.
But this fan just keeps harassing him, and I think eventually he asked him, "What's your name?" Right? Wasn't it something like
fan? Yeah. So that's the most incredible thing about these fans. Brilliant. But they are just blindly harassing every Nationals player, and they don't even know who the player is. So they're basically chanting against him, and then they want to ask him his name so they could, I guess, more pointedly chant against him. That was incredible. But devotion.
Loaiza is like, I'm Loaiza.
Loaiza. He said Loaiza. That is the episode.
He was not going to have a good career because when he came to the Yankees, he was a total bomb. All right, John.
Loaiza.
Well, I guess that puts a bow on April 23rd, 2005. And for everyone listening, that's some of the memories associated with that game, and some players in between. And I guess anything else you want to add before we say goodbye?
No, the only thing that the whole parking lot situation kind of reminded me of is over the years we finally figured out where to park. So
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
sure at that point we were not parked by that rear left exit, but we definitely learned. So just keep learning, everybody. That's my main.
Thank you,
advice.
Johnny Ice. Well, he's Johnny Ice. You can follow him on Twitter. I think he's now not been banned anymore at Johnny Ice. And also on Instagram. What's your Instagram handle?
Johnny Hielo, for those of us that like to taunt Loiza. That's ice in Spanish.
Very nice. And I'm Ray Hernandez, RH1782 on Twitter and Instagram. Let us know what you think. This is the pilot episode. Like I said, we're just two schmucks, two friends, just, wanting to share stories about our Mets experiences. But if there are ideas for future episodes or feedback on this episode, please share it to us. We'd love to hear from you. And again, I guess we'll talk to you soon and listen in. Let's do it again next week. What do you say, Johnny Ice?
Take care, everybody. Drive home safe.
Later.